Let's take a moment and talk about your coaching model. And specifically, I want to talk about the first consultation that you're going to have with your client. You're going to initially talk with them about what's going on. Now, you can structure this any way you want. And I suggest that you have a set way of doing things. So your first consultation with them should be 30 to 60 minutes. And you are attempting in that time to overcome any of their concerns, because trust me, they have concerns. Even though they're calling you and everything may seem like full speed ahead, all systems go, they're going to have concerns. First of all, they've never worked with you. Even if you've helped everyone else in the world, they have never worked with you. So they have concerns about what's going on or what's going to go on, because they're going to be paying money for it, or someone's going to be paying money for it. Also, you need to let them know that you are an expert. Rather than just answering a series of questions, you need to work in there information that has to do with you helping people. Drop some names. Your website should drop names. My website does. I always drop names when people I help are of a celebrity status and they're willing to go public with the fact that they used hypnotherapy. I always get a testimonial from them, and I will put it on my website for all the world to see. So you should always drop names of people they recognize. And as I've said, you should always mention people who are the average Joe, so to speak, so they know that you don't just work with celebrities who have millions of dollars and could care less if it works or not. You work with people who are living close to the edge financially, who really, really do care, who count every penny, who want to make sure that they're getting their money's worth from you, because those testimonials can be even more powerful than the testimonials that you think are high power, the ones that are from celebrities and rich people. So 30 to 60 minutes is good enough. You don't want to go beyond that, because in a first consultation, you're just talking with them. You're just getting to know them. And you can do this on the phone or in person, but you're really not getting into coaching. So it shouldn't go beyond 30 to 60 minutes. If it does, then I suggest that you tell them that you have an appointment you need to get to, because at that point, they're probably just trying to milk the situation a little bit, and you need to be very aware of that. So from the first consultation, you need to make sure that things are very clear. One of the things that's clear is that your time is valuable. They may get the impression that your time's not valuable, that you don't have anything better to do than to talk to them all day. So you need to make sure that they understand that. Next, I want to look at your fee. You should have either a small fee or it should be free. And I'm talking about the initial consultation, the one that hooks them, the one that brings the fish on the boat, if you will. If you're a fisherman or fisherwoman, fisher person, and you are reeling a fish in, this is the consultation that brings the fish on the boat. You hook them and you bring them on. You do this by being honest, straightforward, telling them what you're going to do for them, the value you're going to add to their lives, and getting them excited about the possibilities. So you should have either a small fee or it should be free. But it shouldn't vary. For example, if Joe calls you and you charge him $200 for the initial consultation, and then Mary calls you and you don't charge her anything, well, what if Joe and Mary know each other? Or what if eventually they know each other? What if you get testimonials from them and they're both famous people and they eventually talk to each other because they both see their testimonials on your website? Hey, he charged me $200. Oh, really? It was free for me. He must not like you. You see what I mean? You can get into all kinds of complicated situations that you can really avoid by just being straight across the board with everyone. What you do for one person, you should do for another. So you either have a small fee or it's free. Your initial consultation can be on the phone, and it can be fairly brief. It can be 30 minutes, as I've said, up to 60 minutes, but it's fairly brief. And so you're not going to get a whole bunch of stuff done. You're not going to solve the world's problems on the first call. So with that in mind, you should keep your fee lower for the initial consultation to reflect that. to reflect the idea that you're not really getting a lot done. There's really not anything they should expect to accomplish from that. They're not going to walk away from that situation with some new distinctions that they can use. And really, I want you to avoid giving too much value in the first consultation, especially if it's free. If you're giving away a free consultation and they have a burning question about their business and you answer it and you spend that time resolving that challenge, what have you done? You've talked yourself right out of a job. So I don't want you to add tremendous value or necessarily any value at all the first call. I want you to hold that back. I want you to keep that a mystery. And if they try to get into that territory with you, saying things like, well, what would you do if? Yeah, I have this situation right now. What would you do if? I want you to keep it general, vague, not give them anything that they can use. Because they may take that, they may say, oh, great, thank you, bye, don't need you anymore, I've got the answer now. So that is something, the value part is something that you add to them once you are hired. Let's look at terms and conditions. You want to have terms and conditions. You should have them on your website. You should have them in a document that they can fill out. You should have them available in a number of places. If you go to my website, any website of mine, and you attempt to buy something, you will come across the terms and conditions. These were prepared by an attorney to protect me. They are prepared so that the client will, first of all, not sue me. Second of all, there won't be a misunderstanding. Third of all, they won't rip off my material and use it themselves when they shouldn't because it's my material. So it covers a lot of things. And that's what you should have. You should have terms and conditions. Now, you may not initially have terms and conditions that are that detailed, that are as detailed as mine. However, you should at least explain the basics. They're entering into a relationship with you, a coaching client relationship. They should understand what that entails. One of the things you should have in there would be what you expect from them. Another thing you should have in there is what they can expect from you. And you can define that any way you want. Maybe you have a cancellation fee if they cancel without letting you know. I remember when I had my office in Beverly Hills and I was seeing hypnotherapy clients, they would notoriously cancel a half hour before their session. Not all the time, but often enough. I'd have maybe 2 out of maybe 30 clients a week. 2 of them would do that. That was frustrating because I was there. I had to sit there for an hour. Sometimes my initial session was 2 hours, so I'd have 2 hours where I wouldn't be able to do anything. I would just sit there reading a magazine, waiting for the next client, wishing I wasn't at the office for those 2 hours or that hour. And it was really just wasted time that I hadn't planned on having free, and there's really nothing to do with that time. So I became proactive, and I put in my terms and conditions the late cancellation fee. If they canceled within a 24-hour period, in other words, if their appointment was 24 hours or sooner, and they canceled within that window, they had to pay for the session anyway. And if they did that twice, then they had to pay not only for each session, but they had to pay an additional fee on top of that. It was something like a frequent cancellation fee. So eventually I got very proactive, and that's what I did. That type of thing really helps when you have that written down because people don't want to have to pay, and they also realize what an inconvenience it is for you. So they start becoming very respectful of your time. So make sure your terms and conditions are not only clear, but that you explain them in the first consultation so that there are no misunderstandings. Let's talk about reviewing pricing. You need to review your pricing with them. You need to make sure that they understand what's going on, that they understand that if they pay for 10 sessions, they get one free, for example, or that you're going to charge $250 for every session after that one. And if you have to stay with them more than an hour, then it goes into the next hour, the next $250, or whatever it is that you charge. And I'm not suggesting that you charge any certain fee, but what I will suggest is this, and this has always worked for me. I suggest that you set yourself up as the most expensive life coach available, or at least in your area. You don't have to be the most expensive life coach in the world, but I suggest that you are the most expensive life coach in your area. What does that do? That sets up the perception of value. Perception of value is everything, especially when they don't know you. If they don't know who you are, they don't know what to expect. They don't know what value you're going to add to their lives, to their situation. Maybe they know what you did for so-and-so, but they don't really know what you're going to do for them. Because of that, you don't really have the leverage that you need. But if you set up your price, people are going to respond to that. And there was a study done a while back where they took 2 bottles of water, and one bottle was priced at one price and one bottle was priced at a higher price. The one that was priced at the higher price was perceived as being better, even though they were identical. They were the same water, but the higher price one was perceived to be better just because the price was higher. You are going to automatically rise in the eyes of your clients, rise in value if you price yourself higher. So find out what everyone else in your area, at least in your city, is charging for life coaching, if there are life coaches in your area. If not, then branch out to your state. Look around your state. Type it into a search engine search and find out the life coaches in your state, what they're charging. Call them up. Look at their website. See what they're charging. Make sure you're charging more than them. Now, initially, you're going to think this is going to scare everyone away. They're going to say, wait a minute, I would never pay that price. You've got to trust me when I say, and I've been the most expensive hypnotherapist for a long time now, trust me when I say that it is going to pay off over and over for you. You're going to raise the perception of value in their eyes. But the important thing here is that you review the pricing with them. No matter what you charge, make sure they understand what they're getting into. Make sure they understand not only your terms and conditions, but make sure they understand exactly what you're going to charge, because nobody wants any surprises. They don't want to get a bill and look at it and say, what in the world is this? And you don't want that to happen either, because when that happens, again, your job may be in jeopardy, or they may think that you were dishonest somehow. So make sure that you're 100% honest from the beginning, and you explain everything they will pay. Let's discuss forms of communication. Now, you're going to have to be very clear with them about how you want to communicate, and they're going to have to be very clear with you about how they want to be communicated with. And you're going to have to come to some kind of agreement. We already talked about a little bit of this. We talked about the different ways you can communicate, and realize that ultimately it comes down to what they want. But really, if there's a form of communication that you're not comfortable with or you're not well versed at, then you're either going to have to learn it or you're going to have to share with them that you don't use that form of communication. And this reminds me of Skype. Skype is a way to communicate with people online on a computer, and it's very efficient, very effective, very wonderful. But for a long time, I didn't use Skype. People would want to set up meetings with me all the time. And my assistant would tell me that so-and-so wants to have a meeting with me on Skype. And I would say, I don't use Skype. Tell them I don't use Skype. Let's set it up on the phone. And so she would have to go back to them and tell them that we need to talk some other way. I was resistant to it. Maybe it's a sign of age, I don't know. But I was resistant to learning Skype because I thought, oh, it's just one more thing to get me in front of a computer. Why can't people just get on the phone and talk to each other? Little did I realize just how powerful Skype is. First of all, it has an interface which is very similar to the phone. Second of all, it has a video interface. And third, you can just talk to someone if you want to without the video. So you can talk to someone, you can type to someone, you can see them, you can see charts they're showing, you can send files. It's just amazingly wonderful, and I love it now. But initially I didn't. So you need to find out what they love and what they don't. And if they are people who like something like Skype or whatever the next big thing may be, rather than being resistant, I want to encourage you to take the time to learn it, because if enough people are saying something, there's probably some validity to it. Always keep that in mind in your life. If enough people are telling you the same thing, that's something you need to pay attention to. So enough people were requesting that I get on Skype, and I thought there's nothing to it. Sure enough, I tried it out one day, and it revolutionized the way that I do business, the way I communicate with people. But make sure you discuss forms of communication and how you're going to communicate with them. That all happens in the first consultation. You get that all on the table. Make sure that you're able to speak their language, so to speak, able to text if that's what they prefer, and that you're okay with that, or email or call. Make sure that you understand how the communication is going to work, what form or forms it will take. You need to discuss static or integrative plans. Now, static plans are plans that are set and they stay still. Integrative plans are plans that have to do with other parts being integrated into them. Now, when we talk about a static plan, you're setting the number of sessions or putting a limit on the communications. So you can have plans like this, but you need to discuss that ahead of time. For example, what I'm talking about here is that if you want to have only 6 sessions, let's say they pay you $1,000 a month, and you tell them that bought them 6 sessions, okay? So that's static, that's set. You're going to have a set number of sessions, set number of communications. Let's say you have 6 one-hour sessions, and they're allowed 15 additional communications by text or email or what have you, and that's it. Beyond that, you're going to charge extra. You need to discuss that with them. And trust me when I say you need to get all this on the table initially. You've got to get all of this out initially. If you don't, you're going to have a client who thinks they can call you all the time. They have something going on and they're going to call you. And they think of something an hour later, guess who they're going to call? You. And 3 a.m. comes around and they wake up and they have a brilliant idea. They're going to text you. So you will, trust me, you will have clients like that. You need to have a way to deal with them. There needs to be a way that you can have their needs met, but have your needs met also. Now, your needs are for peace of mind and for money. You need to have calmness in your life, and you need to be compensated for what you're doing. So if you're comfortable with them texting away all the time, that's really no big deal to you, then perhaps you can say, well, I allow unlimited texts. Or if you're fine with unlimited emails or phone calls, if you're fine with that, then why not? Just take them all day long. However, I want you to realize you can set yourself up for some failure here by doing that too much. And I'm reminded of dealing with an accountant who I was going to hire, an accountant who actually practices in New York. I was going to hire him because a friend of mine in New York uses him. I had my initial consultation with him, which was free. He had to take other phone calls no fewer than 15 times during the initial free consultation. I would never deal with him. And I told my friend to tell him that because he needed to know that. He was one of those people who, once you become his client, you can call him anytime you want, as many times as you want. There's no additional fee. That's wonderful, except for the fact that every other client has to deal with people calling all the time. So you're calling him on the phone, trying to get some advice, and he's taking calls every minute. Hold, please. Hold, please. I'll be right back. Hold, please. It was frustrating, and it caused him to not get me as a client, and no telling how many other clients has caused him not to get or to lose because it's just annoying. So you need to set parameters. Let people know what's going on and how you feel about these things. And if you need to charge extra, let them know about that up front. And there's our old friend again. Develop rapport. In the first consultation, you need to develop rapport. You need to work with them. You need to speak their language. Now, there are a lot of NLP techniques, neuro-linguistic programming techniques, for developing rapport. Unfortunately, a lot of your clients are going to be very savvy. And if you get too carried away with these, you're going to get caught. And they're going to say, wait a minute, you're trying to use those mind tricks on me, those Jedi mind tricks on me? What are you trying to pull here? You're trying to manipulate me right from the first consultation? You got to be kidding me. So you've got to be careful when developing rapport and using your linguistic programming. However, developing rapport really comes from finding a common ground. You want to find a common ground with them. You want to find the honest things that you really relate to them on. Do they like fishing? You like fishing. Perhaps. If you don't, then don't say it. But if you do both like fishing, you relate to that. Do you collect antique bottles from the 1920s? If you do, and they do, that's something you should bring up. It helps establish rapport. Do you have the same political views? Where is the common ground? If nothing else, then you should both agree that you're going to help your client get to where they want to be. They want that and you want that. There's your common ground. So if nothing else, you have that. But work on developing rapport from the very first consultation. Developing rapport is priceless because it allows you, as I've said, to keep your job. It allows you to get things done a lot more smoothly and efficiently. If they trust you and they feel that you're similar to them and they like you, it just allows things to flow more smoothly. Everything becomes wonderful when you have rapport. So rapport is going to keep coming up because it's very important. Always focus on developing rapport and keep developing it. It's something that never goes out of style, never goes out of fashion. Rapport is always the way to go. So always work on developing rapport, maintaining rapport, and developing more rapport. And this starts from the very first communication.